dealing with the COs. God forbid they were prejudiced. Dealing with the other inmates. Some of those people needed to be in there. All through that, not being able to get in touch with your family for 93 days. For them just to come back and tell me after the 93 days, oh, sorry, Mr. Gilman, it was a mistaken identity. Because I couldn't pay bail. I could have lost my life. I could have gotten raped. I could have had a body or been a body. This is not good. But thanks to our efforts with pretrial reform in the 2019 budget, this will thankfully no longer be a reality for other individuals. Yeah. As of January 1st, 2020, we have fought hard to get close to creating a New York state where people are truly innocent until proven guilty. Yeah. You know, us taxpayers, we shell out a heck of a lot of money. We're on the hook for this, for the hundreds of thousands of people that are being held in jail without bail. And over this last year, we recorded about 800 fatalities because you couldn't get out. They lost their life, 800 over this year. That is just not right. Again, we have fought hard to get close to creating a New York state where people are truly proven or innocent until proven guilty. However, we cannot do that effectively with DAs trying to insist that they are the ones that need more funding right now. Right here, right now, I'm telling you, and the powers that be, that we the people are the experts on what our communities need. That's right. Again, at the tune of $15 billion a year. That's what the taxpayers are shelling out. $15 billion a year. As district attorneys demand additional funding for their departments, it is more important now than ever that we speak up and say that is not what our communities need. Any additional funding that the state distributes needs to be directed back to the communities, not into continuing the draconian incarceration systems that we have fought so hard to change through pretrial reform. Pretrial reform saves lives. Again, pretrial reform saves lives. What I say?
Pretrial reform saves lives.
Right. And you want to know where increased funding really needs to be directed? Well, our communities need housing. Our communities need educational programs and drop-in centers.
Right.
We need funding to expand harm reduction resources.
Right.
The last thing we need more funding is, as I say, for more better ways to incarcerate. The DAs abuse their power to create loopholes to continue their history of wrongful prosecution in New York State. We urge the county executive to listen to our voices here tonight. The voices of Westchester residents and everyday New Yorkers. Hear us when we say that we urge you to shrink the footprints of the criminal legal system and to reinvest in our communities and not in what?
Incarceration.
Not in funding and the overfunding of incarceration. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Next up, I'd like to call Allison Lake from Westchester Children's Association.
So, good evening, everyone. I first want to thank the Westchester County Board of Legislators that did vote back in March for a resolution on pretrial reform. I think it's important we recognize our County Board of Legislators. So, pretrial reforms, like bail and discovery, have been a long time coming and are critical to our Westchester communities. As the executive director of Westchester Children's Association, a child advocacy organization, we know how harmful pretrial incarceration is on children and families. We know that roughly 70% of those waiting in county jails are waiting for their day in court. Pretrial incarceration is harmful in so many ways. It violates the presumption of innocence and criminalizes working class people and communities of color. To quote Brian Stevenson, We have a system of justice in this country that treats you better if you are rich and guilty than if you are poor and innocent. Pretrial incarceration can cost people their jobs, housing, or their children. At Westchester Children's Association, we care about all children and families in this county and work to ensure that every child is healthy, safe, and prepared for life. The impact of incarceration on families can be life-altering. The separation of children from their parents is traumatic. The potential loss of jobs and incomes and households can destroy a family. Unjust pretrial incarceration affects children, families, and our societies. The Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, or ACEs, as you may know, which has been gaining a lot of understanding here in our county, speaks about trauma-informed care and resilience, and includes that a parent in jail is trauma that has the potential for lifelong health and mental health consequences for children. Without support, children of incarcerated parents are more likely to experience poverty, homelessness, learning disabilities, and engage in behaviors that can lead themselves into involvement in the justice system. We owe it to our communities to implement legislation that will decrease the criminal justice footprint and eliminate racial and economic disparities. Westchester Children's Association believes that bail and discovery reforms are long overdue, both for children and our communities. These policies more effectively preserve presumption of innocence, keeping families intact through the duration of trial, and mitigating the potential trauma on children and families. We appreciate Westchester County's support of the reforms, both from the executive and the legislative leadership, and encourage the county to stay true to the spirit behind the reforms by allocating necessary funding for community-based services and resources to support Westchester's children and families affected by the criminal justice system. In this budget cycle, and we are waiting to go into the budget hearing, WCA and our partners want to see funding allocated to innovative best practices and alternatives to incarceration and not business as usual. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Allison. Next, I'd like to call up Damon Jones.
Can you hold this right here? Yes, right here. Hello. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Damon Jones. I am the publisher of Black Westchester Magazine, and I'm also the New York representative of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America. For many that are here and some that don't, I am currently working in the Westchester County Jail. I've been there I'm on my 30th year there. And in the 30 years, I have watched young black men and women, poor white, held in the county facility for $100 bail, $150 bail, and not allowed to go home because they can't afford it. We understand that poverty creates crime and violence. We also understand, if you're conscious, we also understand that the criminal justice system is almost like a Ponzi scheme, because they'll keep the young brother and sister there for 6, 7, 8, 9 months, and then he will plea bargain just to go home, right? We supposed to have a system that you are innocent until proven guilty. If you are not allowed to see the evidence that they have against you until you go to trial, you will sit there, and then you will want to go home with your family, or you want to get back to your job and take care of your family, or if you're a female, you want to be a mother to your children. So this is a system that needs to be changed, right? And if we don't, and if we can't have our DAs to understand that, because Lady Justice is supposed to be blind, right? But now she peeks under a blindfold to see if you're an immigrant, black, white, poor, right? So we understand the system itself is against people of color and poor people, even poor white. So we are standing here and saying to the county, no, they don't need no more money to do the right thing, right? Justice is, we're not saying justice should have a price tag to it, right? Our district attorneys It's supposed to be about justice, not about getting convictions, because that's all they tout about, is how many convictions that they get. But they never tout about how many innocent people that they made sure did not go to jail. So we have to change the paradigm today. We have to start it with legislation, and we have to start it with the unity of the people. And if the DAs don't want to do the job, then we have to vote them out. It's simply as that, and put DAs that's going to have the consciousness of criminal justice reform. So I'm here in support, organization Blacks in Law Enforcement, support in Black Westchester, whatever we can do to move this forward and continue to create the conversation. We're here to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan and Jim. And I'd like to call up Lucia from New York Civil Liberties Union. Thank you, Lucia.
Hi everyone, my name is Lucia Hermo and I'm the Deputy Director for the New York Civil Liberties Union, the Hudson Valley chapter. On April 1st, 2019, New York State passed historic pretrial legislation overhauling our deeply unjust bail, discovery, and speedy trial systems. The New York Civil Liberties Union stands in support of the recent reforms and in working together to build an equitable legal system for all. Money bail is a corrupt and inherently unequal tool in our criminal justice system, one that contradicts the most fundamental idea that people are innocent until proven guilty. It creates a system where the size of your wallet determines whether you are free to go to work, to spend time with your family, and to work on your case, or whether you are forced to spend that time behind bars. In Westchester County in 2018, over 1,000 people languished in jail each night. Over 65% of those were pre-trial, which meant that they had not been convicted or were behind bars because they could not afford bail. The money bail system is also one that is steeped in racial bias. In the same way that our mass incarceration and mass criminalization crises have hurt people of color, particularly Black people, bail has done the same to our communities of color. White New Yorkers are nearly twice as likely than Black New Yorkers to be released on the same day that their bail was set.
That's right.
Imagine being arrested and sent to jail with no way of getting out simply because you couldn't afford it. You might be waiting for weeks, months, or maybe even years before being able to make your case to a judge. How long could you risk not going to work without losing your job? How long would your landlord wait on you before renting your place to another? How many days can you rely on family or friends to take your kids to school or to check in on your dependents? And if you are innocent but want to make your case, how long could you hold out before being forced to make a plea deal just so you can get out of jail?
That's right.
Because of the reforms passed in April, in 2020, many fewer people will be incarcerated pre-trial. Prosecutors will now be required to turn over all evidence at the very beginning and before any plea deal. This is an important step in the right direction for our state and for our county. The presumption of innocence is a cornerstone of our justice system. For too long, this was denied to tens of thousands of New Yorkers kept behind bars simply because they couldn't afford to pay their way out on bail. There is no equal justice if one person is allowed to await trial at home while another is locked up simply because one person had money and the other didn't. No one should have to risk losing their job, their housing, or their children just to fight their case.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, I believe we have someone here from Community Voices Heard.
Yeah, hey, Luke, that's me.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Hi. I'm Peter Bernstein, reading off my phone for the first time. I'm getting modern instead of a piece of paper. Yeah. I'm a Community Voices Heard board member and a founding member of the Irvington Activists and a resident of Irvington. Community Voices Heard, CVH, is a member-led, multiracial organization principally comprised of women of color and low-income families in New York State. We organize to build power to secure racial, social, and economic justice for all New Yorkers. The following is a statement by Afia Atamensa, our executive director, who sends her regards to everybody. Community Voices Heard members have personally experienced and witnessed the damage to families and communities that has been done by an unjust criminal justice system. We applaud the long overdue legislative reforms to the cash bail system and discovery procedures and call for greater public investments in basic community needs like affordable housing, education, job programs, and health care. The Westchester County budget should redirect expenditures previously dedicated to jailing people waiting for trial to these basic community needs that will strengthen our families and our neighborhoods.
That's right.
That's Sophia. Now this is me. Last week, the county released its housing needs assessment report, which CVH had been pushing for many years unsuccessfully in the previous administration and much more successfully with the Democratic majority, and thank you for that. But the report confirms what we already know. Westchester County has a housing crisis. A crisis of affordability. We have far too many homeless people. We have over 40% of county residents spending more than 50% of their monthly income on housing costs. Over 40% spending more than 50%. That's, people think Westchester's a wealthy county, but the report says, says we got issues. So we have a crisis. So, we urge the county to invest more in truly affordable housing. Are you with us?
Yes.
We urge the county to invest more in health care, including mental health. Are you with us?
Yes.
And we want the county to spend more on education, job training, and after-school programs. Are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You have to take a picture of that little kids that funding for housing.
Yes, that's beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So thank you, Peter. And again, tonight, this rally has been attended and organized by groups including the Westchester Children's Association, Community Voices Heard, Vocal New York, the New York Civil Liberties Union, Westpac, Irvington Activists, Westchester for Change, and others, alongside community members whose lives have been harmed by New York's previous unjust pretrial system and who celebrate the new reforms coming in January. And we are here standing united today from different areas throughout the state, from Westchester, from Albany, from New York City and beyond, to stand here and say that the people that need additional funding are the people, the communities. We are the ones who need additional funding for housing, for health care, for education for children, for a better reentry options and more restorative justice for folks who have been incarcerated. And we stand here to say that DAs have enough money to do their jobs correctly. They have enough. There's carvings in the bail reform for them to do their jobs correctly, and they will reallocate their funding as needed in order to implement discovery and the rest of our pretrial reforms come January. So we are here and we are going to hold everyone accountable and really call upon the county legislator to make the right decision and to not fund the wrong individuals and to fund the people in need, which is the community standing here before you today. Thank you.
Wait, take a picture of that little girl right there. All the
We have one more speaker. Mondier Jones is going to join us.
Thanks very much. Good evening, everybody. I am so grateful to be here tonight and thankful for all the organizations whose representatives are here tonight. This is really important for me. This is not just something I care about as a candidate for Congress in New York's 17th Congressional District, but as someone for whom policy is personal. And I say that as someone who is an African-American male caught up daily, along with other folks, in this system of criminal injustice, as I refer to it. I got my start in the Obama administration working on and writing about criminal justice reform at the federal level, and it's so helpful to see the states and local municipalities leading the way. It is so inspiring and encouraging to see New York State show real leadership on things like speedy trial reform and cash bail reform, and funding adequately the right to counsel, the constitutional right to counsel, which is something, frankly, we don't talk too much about, but we know that this work is not over. I think you can see that in looking at who is not here tonight, frankly. And so I think it's important that we continue to hold people accountable, that we elect the right folks to office, and that we make sure that we pay attention to what people say, but also to what they're not saying. I would say that as someone who is deeply committed to this issue and who is elevating this in the course of this campaign, it is something that is very important to me. I think we need to make sure that we have a district attorney in Westchester County, which I describe all along the campaign trail as a tale of two cities, as someone referred to earlier today. You know, we know that that same report that Peter Bernstein referred to showed that 10% of people in Westchester County live in poverty. And so it is too simple to think of Westchester County as an affluent place. You got places all throughout Westchester County, and frankly all throughout the 17th district, like where I was born, where people are really struggling to make it. You know, folks can't, in many places all throughout this district, can't afford to go without a paycheck, and certainly can't afford to miss multiple consecutive paychecks. So we have to make sure that we remain committed and vigilant with respect to these issues, that we don't forget them, that we don't forget people who are other human beings just because they make less than us or look different than us, that we make sure that we continue to hold people accountable and make sure we keep this top of mind, because when we treat other people the way we want to be treated, we are all better as a society and as human beings, and we can ensure a livable future for the people who come after us. So thank you for being here tonight, and I am an ally of yours, and I will be here right with you every step along the way. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one more individual who's going to speak tonight. Our Westchester County Majority Leader, Catherine Parker, would like to say a few words. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody who's here. And as the Majority Leader for the Board of Legislators, there are other legislators here which I'd like to recognize. We have Legislator Damon Marr, incoming Legislator Colin Smith, we have Legislator Nancy Barr, and I have to tell you, I hear you. Just at our last public hearing for the budget, which we had in Mount Vernon, we had somebody that came that presented a case for a re-entry program, the Re-Entry Civic Leadership Academy that she's trying to put together with Grace Baptist Church. And so yesterday, I mean, this is happening very, very quickly. Yesterday, we had a meeting with individuals within the administration from the corrections, but also from our youth bureau, and we're looking at ways where we can really make a difference to people, help them get back into society, use money to really give people back their lives. And I'm looking at my friend here, Damon Jones. You said it very well when you said this is a pipeline. It starts with poverty and it goes to crime and violence, but we all know where it really begins, and it really begins with racism. So we have to really level that playing field. We are looking at our budget with new eyes than maybe other boards have looked at in years before. So I thank you again. Your words have been heard, and I really appreciate everything, and thank you to Mr. Gilman on your leadership.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take a picture of that sign with that little kid guy. You got it?
All right. Thank you, everyone, for gathering tonight to join us. And again, we are going to continue to push forward and to really call on folks to insist that investment goes into our communities, not into incarceration. Investment in communities, not incarceration. Investment in communities, not incarceration. Investment in communities.